Okay, you guys, I love our next guest. She is now the second time, or she's the second person that's ever been on the show twice. We are welcoming Jade Bianca. She's a certified matchmaker and dating expert. Hi, we love you. How are you?
Hi, guys. I'm well. How are you?
Good. We're so excited you're on again. We're so excited to be partnering with you. And we want to talk about that. But first, we want to talk about you. You've had some like major life changes. So tell us about that.
Well, I'm learning how to write my new last name because apparently I didn't learn how to do a capital F in cursive well when I was a child. My new last name starts with an F, and I was like, how the fuck do you write this?
Yeah, I can't even picture a capital F.
Thank you, Jared.
It's like a little swivel and then a line down, and then it curves around, and then a little swivel through.
Right. And then the older you get, like with the progression of your signature, it gets less like the actual letter. So I asked my new husband how he wrote it, and it just doesn't look like an F. So I was like, all right, I'm just like that little girl in her notebook, like trying to practice my signature.
Like,
so
Jade,
yes.
What is your new last name?
It's Felix.
Oh, I love that.
I'm an older millennial. And so it's interesting when people are like, oh, Felix. And I say, yeah, like the cat. And then like these 20-year-olds are like looking at me like I have like, I don't know, hair coming out of my nose. Yeah. And I was like, oh God, they don't know the Felix the cat reference.
So I am curious, are you going to change your last name? Like, have you decided what you're going to do with that?
Yeah. So I'm very feminist, but I also like the idea of when we have a family to kind of have like that unit. And I wasn't really tied to my last name anyways. So yeah, it's a new fun thing. Definitely getting used to. I did not change my last name in my first marriage. So it takes some adjustment for sure.
Maybe that was like foreshadowing.
Wasn't it all?
So Jade, what has been something that surprised you about your newly married life?
So we actually met in 2019, the summer. And so we were only together for about 6 to 8 months before the pandemic happened. So I feel like our relationship has been very intense from the beginning. I don't know. We have a great communication style, and that's kind of the beautiful thing about us. So I don't know if I've learned anything new yet, but we are only 21 days into it. So I can get back to you. Okay. I am the messy one in the relationship. So there's that.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I don't think we could be more different. Yes.
Were you living together before, or are you now newly living together?
We've been living together kind of right when the pandemic happened. We were unofficially living together, but we've been together in the same house for about 1.5 years now.
Okay.
So that's always fun getting used to, right?
Yeah. Does the messy ever turn into an argument?
I've tried to be more like conscientious about what I'm leaving around, because I'm like more of like the feel it artsy, like literary person, and which means that we're not very clean, right? And he's very type A engineer. You do this, but yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's interesting because I'm also artsy, kind of free spirit, but I have this OCD side of me. And if my place doesn't look exactly like how I need it to look, I'm like, I freak out.
Do you?
Yeah. But I'm still
Jared?
No. But actually I do have like weird little idiosyncrasies, like, but in my space, I'm not super neat.
It's not, yeah.
So I'm more like you, Jade, I think.
It's more like those things that when you are living with someone that you love, but like, do they put the top on the toothpaste? Are they the type of person that rolls the toothpaste, or do they squeeze it like that? Like, are you going to last for the long haul?
Squeezing the toothpaste from the bottom is one of the things for me. I'm like, why would you do it like that?
Yeah, I think you're a serial killer if you squeeze in the middle. You're a serial killer.
Yeah, no, you squeeze it at the top.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
Not everybody. I need to circle back to that hand job story.
Really quick, I was just having a conversation about this with someone. Toilet paper, over or under?
Over.
Okay.
Definitely over.
But
100%.
what if your partner is like, they don't care and they just put it under? Like, would you go to the trouble of like fixing it, or would you yell
I'm
at
gonna
them?
throw my husband under the bus. He doesn't actually do it. He just puts the toilet paper beside.
Oh my gosh, that's worse. He doesn't even.
Sorry,
change
babe. He's gonna bust in here. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's a give and take with relationships. So I will go on record and I put the toilet paper on the roll every time.
Wow.
Well, I mean, like, that's okay, right? Because I'm thinking about our conversation with Aaron, right? Like, there's things where you're like, okay, I know my partner doesn't do this.
Yeah.
And like, I'm happy to take this one for us.
Absolutely.
Happy
Right.
to take
It
the
is a
toilet
tiny-
paper for a team.
Yeah.
Jade, tell us really quick a little bit about your wedding day, if you feel comfortable talking about it. Like, what was your favorite part? Was there anything that didn't go the way planned?
Everything was actually very, it was a micro wedding. We did it in my parents' backyard in the city.
I love that.
So we did this nice lighting, bistro lighting, and we rented these carpets, and it was beautiful. I wish I would have practiced not crying when I spoke my vows.
Oh.
Because I didn't expect to. I mean, you love this person, you picked this person. I'm going to cry talking about it. So I'll try and get to it. It's just a beautiful thing. My husband is also divorced. We know what it's like to kind of go through those really difficult times, and to be able to trust someone and give love a second chance to get married again is a huge leap. And so it was really beautiful to have my family there and his family there. And then, it was just a magical time. And then we had a wonderful dinner and we got drunk together as a big family and did karaoke.
I love this.
So yeah, it was
much.
very sweet. I couldn't have asked for a more special moment. So.
Did you guys write your own vows together, or like kind of separately, and like surprise each other with them?
We surprised each other. He's actually like someone he's very intelligent and writes his own stuff all the time. But he was talking about coffee and his vows too. And I was just listening to it. I was like, what is he talking about? Coffee? This is supposed to be about me. But we both wrote them and they were very sweet. I'd like to like have them posted somewhere, but I make love happen. I make introductions happen for a living, but I also try not to be like so cheesy.
Well, it's funny. I every now and then I like fake create a scenario of me and my to-be husband up there for saying our vows for each other, and I'll start crying.
That's amazing. I love that you just shared that.
She's gonna lead with that on her next first date. She'll be like, listen.
Do you like see yourself like what you're saying?
Yeah, like what else? Yeah, it'll be like specific to who I'm talking to.
Oh, you'll fantasize about that person.
Oh, yeah. Like you're like a little cute thing on your first date.
Yeah, like because I'm a writer. Like I'm very creative and I'm thoughtful and I remember little things. So like I'll be like, oh, if we did end up together or we got married, like this is something, like I sneak it to the back of my mind and I'm like, I would sneak this in the vow.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So you'll meet a guy like at the coffee shop, and then if you start hanging out and hitting it off, then like at some point in the next few weeks, you'll fantasize of yourself being like, honey, when we first met I knew from the moment we first met at the coffee shop, and your smile and your glasses and the funny joke you made about biscuits or whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll start writing it.
That's amazing.
That is wonderful. So our third date was when I was accepted to a law school and I got a full ride to this law school, but I wasn't sure I wanted to go there and I didn't want to let them know it was me. And so I created an alias and we were a fake married couple touring a law school on our third date.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah, that was our third date. So
wow.
I think, I guess I kind of trapped him.
And you manifested it.
I was like, your thing is manifesting.
I am
too,
manifesting.
Yeah. So there that is.
Yeah. Well, Jade, can you tell us a little bit about, you said that you've kind of stepped away from being a dating coach and to kind of, you're a dating matchmaker, you're a dating expert, you help with dating apps. Tell us about that process for you. Yeah.
So I'm still coaching, but what I love about what I'm doing right now is Dating After Divorce is the only matchmaking and dating company that focuses specifically on divorcees. And so along with matchmaking, you don't just match someone and everything's hunky dory. Like especially throughout the divorce process and getting back out there, there's certain things that your friends and family can't tell you, and certain blocks that might be stopping you from meeting that person. So I am that third party to try and help you move along and be your best self, and kind of stop putting these barriers that are stopping you from meeting amazing people that might just be an inch shorter or 5 miles outside of your perimeter. So that's what my goal is. So any way I can help people feel comfortable and confident in dating again is my main goal.
And so people can come to you for like matchmaking, which is like like a process where you get that, where you work with them in the ways that you just mentioned, and kind of get them connected with a bunch of potential matches because you have a database and work with other matchmakers all over the country. And then the other service you offer is kind of like dating profile stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's dating profile management. So a lot of times people either don't have the bandwidth, everyone's busy and has full-time jobs. They might have kids, they might have multiple jobs. And so that act of like continuously being on your cell phone and messaging these people, men and women, like back and forth here and there, it gets exhausting. It feels like a second job, maybe a third job if you have kids. So basically what I do is I take my clients' profiles, I take conversations and what they're looking for, and I bring them those matches in one meeting a week, as opposed to them spending 5-10 hours a week messaging back and forth. So it's a time saver. I'm basically like a dating secretary in that role. And I also just love to hear the stories about being like, that's not someone I would usually go out with, but I'm looking at their conversation. They look like they're funny and like have some depth to them. So I'd like to go out with them.
Wow. That sounds like a dream.
Is it okay? So 2 questions. One, do you only do dating app services for divorcees?
No, I do it for everyone. I don't really go younger. The youngest client I've ever had was probably like 28.
Okay.
I'm starting a sister company for the younger generations, but right now Dating After Divorce pretty much goes from like 28 to like 65.
Perfect. Okay. And then the second question is, when you're conversing with these people on the dating apps, are you conversing as the other person so they don't know? Oh
yeah, so that's the thing. So for the dating profile management, I am my client. I am the man I'm running the profile for, or I'm the woman I'm running the profile for. So as you guys look at each other, you could have easily been talking to me.
Wow.
I was really good at dating. I know. Yeah. So when you're meeting with someone, especially before the first date, that first in-person interaction, you're kind of just figuring out if you like them enough to just meet in person or do a video date. So you're kind of having the same conversation. So what I do is I take that week of work out and just let you go on the date with them, whether it's a Zoom date or an in-person date. So you can actually enjoy dating as opposed to, my favorite color is this. I don't think anyone ever asks that anymore, but you do.
I do. I do. I always ask it.
What color is your aura?
I do it. You know why I ask it is because it's juvenile. And I think it's fun to bring some high school shit into it.
So you're like being silly.
I do it to be silly.
Yeah. If you're having fun dating, I think that's the most important thing. I mean, I think it's absolutely frustrating at times. And I think that's what's interesting about the role that I play is I see the issues, like the problems and the strengths from both sides. Usually it's like women. I think I've spoken to you guys about this before, but usually women are like, oh, all men do this, men suck. And men are like, if we're talking about heterosexual exchanges, and men are like, oh, I wish women weren't so like superficial and difficult. So we all have our issues that we need to work on, but it's interesting being like the central point and seeing both sides.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I bet that helps. I bet that is like really good for you to see, like, because I think so much, like, I know I can get wrapped up in, excuse me, in like the all men suck, like, or men are assholes. you know, and we've talked to other men that get wrapped up in the, well, women are superficial and just want a man with money. And like, you know, let's be real, like obviously that's not true across the board. And there are really nice men and there are really nice women, and Jared and I just aren't attracted to them.
We just haven't met them yet.
Yeah. Jade, so when I have you do this for me, will you do you also help the person like select photos for their profile and like profile answers that will like attract the kind of people that they're looking for?
Great question. So what I do, I've seen the biggest response with new photos. So I do a professional photo shoot for all of my dating services. So I have a professional photo shoot. I work with the photographer to kind of pick out what you're going to wear, what we want the vibe of the photos to look like, so that you are attracting the people that you are telling me that you want. Because let's be honest, men usually aren't as superficial as us women, and they don't really have great photos. So for my men and women, I do a photo shoot, we do a profile revamp, and then we roll from there.
Wow.
That sounds amazing.
I kind of want to just do a photo shoot with you.
And they work great as a LinkedIn profile too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's like, you can use that beyond like photo shoots are expensive, period. So just to have this like, you know, just kind of handful of photos to be able to use like for everything would be
absolutely
great.
And I think it's a great thing too, getting like breaking out into a new chapter. And like, this is we're getting into the holiday season, we're going into 2022, like hopefully this is a new single chapter where you're going to meet amazing people. And so it kind of takes you to that next step. It elevates your game in a sense.
Well, and what I would say too is like, we've talked a lot about on this show about like invest in your mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like take, like, you know, like to make real changes in your life, you know, takes an investment of time and energy and like money, right? Like, and like I invest a lot of money in my mental health right now. And I think it's also important, like if you're wanting different results from your dating life, like you have to invest in that as well. And I think like everything you're talking about, Jade, is like an awesome way to do that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite like types of clients to take on are people that work in marketing, because they do understand that doing the same thing and not getting different results is going to keep you in the same place. And so they're like, I'm going to do this experiment. I'm going to have an outsider, someone that's professional that does this for a living, tell me what's working or what isn't working, and attracting the people that I want. As opposed to just being like, my dating life sucks, nothing's ever going to change, I'll be single forever. So.
Well, yeah, and that's true. Like, I'm more than happy to like have other people do work for me that I don't want to do. Like, I would rather pay a plumber than try and figure that shit out on my own and ruin the toilet. You know, like I love having a cleaning lady because it takes 2 hours out of my week every day or every week that I don't want to clean. I would rather edit and record podcasts, you know, and plus like, I like supporting small businesses. And like, so I think just to invest in yourself in dating and with these services that you offer is just an extension of all of that.
Absolutely. Jared, I have a random question, and I know I'm not the one interviewing you guys, but I'm here. So how many dates have you gone on, Jared, where the woman compliments you?
Ooh, what a great
Good question. I mean, it's definitely like
0.
sub 50%. I think some women do. Like, I would say like maybe 30-40%. I haven't gone on many dates lately, but like off the top of my head, like, and actually sometimes when it happens in the messages, like that's super rare and always like sort of stands out to me when a woman compliments me. Why do you ask?
I ask that because one of the biggest recommendations I give to women who are dating is to actually compliment their date. And it makes someone feel a lot more at ease and makes them feel good about themselves. If we're talking about stereotypes, a lot of times women just assume that men have these like big egos and they're confident and don't need to be reassured about anything. But if someone's meeting you for the first time and they say, oh, you have a beautiful smile, or you have a very handsome smile, that completely changes their mood. Their mindset is like, oh, wow, this person's excited to be around me. They think I'm handsome or beautiful. And it completely changes the game. So if women start complimenting men more, I think they'll see a shift in their
That is a great pro tip. Like that, 100%. That would be like really like charming to me and would make me like more interested in the person and more excited about the date. And yeah,
I feel like I'm very complimentary, but I'm also a verbal affirmations person, like a words of affirmations person. So it's very easy for me to be like, oh, wow, you look really like you're really hot, or like oh, that was so cute what you just did. Or like, I really enjoy talking to you. I'm really enjoying this time with you. That's very easy for me. And to be honest, Jade, I don't get that often from men either. I would say it's about 50-50.
Yeah.
And I don't, and it's hard because sometimes the compliment is, wow, you're really cute, or like, I really like you, or I'm having so much fun. And sometimes it's like, I want to fuck you.
Yeah. So I wrote this, it was either in a newsletter or an article, and I think men should compliment as well. But one thing I don't want men to say to women on the first date is, wow, you look so sexy.
Yes.
And here's the thing. Women want to know they look sexy. Men want to know they look sexy, but women don't want to feel like they could be potentially objectified. And honestly, that kind of like puts up our feelers. Like, is this guy going to spike my drink, or how sexy do you find me? Like, so that's the only compliment I would say to kind of stay away from.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't like it when anybody tells me that I look sexy unless I'm sleeping with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some questions from our listeners for you.
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, great job, listeners. Really, I'm really excited about these questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did a whole article about this, and I contributed some thoughts to this article, but our listeners may not have seen that. And one of our listeners, she's divorced, she is, I think she's in her 40s, and oh yeah, she is, it says on the question. She goes, I never went through the hoe phase. How do I do that safely in my 40s? Which is just such a great question.
Absolutely. The average age of my client are early 40s, mid 40s. So I think it's a great thing to touch on. So one thing I love about getting back out there, and by hoe, I'm not trying to say something derogatory. I mean, like owning your sexual freedom. So I do want to address that. So one thing I think is great about exploring your sexuality after your divorce is because you're probably leaving a marriage that hasn't been intimate, or there is some kind of disconnect in that form. Because if you're going through a divorce, most likely the sex hasn't been there for a while and that connection's been missing. So you kind of get in touch with your body again. You get to rediscover yourself, or maybe you're discovering yourself for the first time. Maybe you got married at 19 and only had like a couple of sexual experiences. So I think that's important to kind of being a new you, is knowing what you like sexually and being able to verbalize it. I think that's important. Also, your taste in men or taste in women. Hell, you might even like the same sex, whatever you want to do. I think that this is your time. I mean, some people explore in college. This is your time to explore after your divorce, and you shouldn't be feel shame for it. So yeah, I think that's a great thing to do. But what I do recommend is getting tested regularly. A lot of people I know don't know that Planned Parenthood has affordable STI testing. You should buy condoms. You should always have some with you. And then also check in on yourself regularly. Yeah. So I think sometimes we think that, oh, I can have casual sex and I can just do that and be fine. But you do need to regularly check in with yourself and say, am I still feeling the same? Do I still want to have just casual experiences? Or am I kind of just filling a void? Which, let's be honest, especially after a breakup or after a divorce, not all of us feel comfortable and confident in ourselves solo. So you might be seeking that attention that you were lacking in your marriage with new people, and we can't expect them to fill that void.
Yeah, I love that. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I have like this phlegm in my throat. It's so attractive.
Thanks for sharing.
She coughed that way.
Okay, what were you gonna say, Jared?
No, nothing.
Oh.
Well, actually, so here's what I was gonna say. I love the advice about sort of checking in with yourself, because sometimes the experience of like a one night stand or having intimacy with someone without commitment, like sometimes the way that feels to us takes a while to sink in.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like you might feel like that night, like it's super fun. And the next morning you like are playful if you're like still at the person's place or whatever, and like eat breakfast and then joke around and then say goodbye. Right.
Mhm.
But then like maybe a few days later, depending on how things play out, you're like, oh, like what, how am I actually feeling about this? You know? And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, I think that check-in advice is like really wise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think it's for everyone. I think also it's different. If you have full custody of your children, if you have 50-50 custody with your children, I tell people to not introduce a significant other until that person is significant, because children of divorce have gone through a lot of change and what they need is stability. So the longer that you can hold off, I usually suggest that with children and dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to double down on the condoms thing. Because when I went through my hoe phase after my divorce, I just didn't even think about condoms or STDs because I had been married to the same person who I dated, who was my first boyfriend since I was 19.
That's a great point. So thank you for saying that. You need to have the conversation with someone about the condoms and also if they're sleeping with other people.
Yeah.
And that's not something we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You need to be comfortable having that conversation because STDs are real. Are they calling it STIs or STDs? Whatever.
I think they're STIs now.
Okay.
But whatever.
It's very real. And a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that. And so they don't get tested. And so if you're assuming that they're responsible with other people, that's putting you at risk.
Yeah.
So being comfortable having those like transparent conversations, when was the last time you were tested, is absolutely okay. It's not going to kill the vibe if that person's the right person for you to have sex with.
Yeah. And if they don't want to have that conversation, then like that's more of a reason not to have sex with
Right.
them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the next question is, how should I message on dating apps so that they will take the lead? And this was from a female. So in a heteronormative situation, this is a female talking about wanting the male to take the lead.
Yeah. So here's the issue that I have with that. I hear a lot of women say that, and they want a man to kind of take the lead and be dominant and like kind of be an equal, but be a little bit more, let's say, alpha.
Mm-hmm.
I truly do not believe that if you were messaging first as a female and initiating the first date and saying, would you like to grab a drink? Would you like to grab a coffee? I do not believe that you initiating that will mean that you are forever initiating the interaction. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of females, heterosexual females, I believe, are skeptical to do that because they don't want to be like, oh, I don't want a man who doesn't take charge. Honestly, we're all busy adults. We all have a lot of shit going on. If you want to go out for a coffee, girl, ask him out for a coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to sit around and wait, what is this, the 1950s? He's not going to come up to your door. Ask him out if you want to go out, and then figure out if he can ask you out for the next date. So that's one thing that I see a lot of women doing is just kind of waiting around. You don't wait around your career. Why would you wait around in your love life?
Fuck yes. I love that.
Well, and I think there's, because we've been talking about like don't chase, right?
Yeah.
And to me though, that's not sort of chasing, right? That's saying like, now if you're like asking the person out multiple times, or if you're always the one to initiate or whatever, then like that's where you put up your radar of like, okay, am I chasing here?
Is it reciprocal?
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely ask first.
Yeah, I love that.
If you find yourself asking them out multiple times, there's an issue there. But for the first time, girl, do it.
Yeah. Jade, what did you ask your husband out?
I did. I was also a serial dater. I actually, so I had a friend cancel on dinner last minute, and I honestly matched with my husband the day of, and I was hungry. And I said, hey, do you want to grab dinner?
I love it.
Yeah, and now we're married.
I love that because I'm the same way. Like I'm just assertive. I like Jared teases me about this all the time, but when I have something in my head that I want to do, I get it done, you know? So if I want to go on a date with someone, I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah. And if they don't want to go, they don't go.
Yeah. And why would that person want me to show up as anything other than that? Like if I'm just playing the meek girl, not saying women who wait are meek, but if I'm playing something different that I'm not, then we're going to get in a relationship and they're going to be like, whoa, who are you?
This isn't the way you showed up.
Yeah. I thought you weren't like this strong of a personality, which actually happened to me one time. And that did not go well.
Wait, what was that story?
That was my ex-boyfriend who ended up being verbally abusive. Because he was such a strong personality, and he was my first boyfriend post-divorce. And I was so hesitant, and like everybody was like, wait till he texts you, make sure that he's the one to text you. And he pursued me so hard. And I was like, I don't know. It was like a lot. And I kind of like ended things. And then we started working back together. And then my true personality, as I felt comfortable, started coming out. And he did not like how strong of a personality I was. And it ended up in him exuding a behavior that he apparently, quote unquote, had never exuded before in other relationships. And I had never experienced that before of being, verbally abused. And then, obviously that relationship ended. And I've really tried to, like, with my most recent ex-boyfriend, I asked him out, and then on our first date, he was like, when can I see you again? So it's like, and we had 6 months of like, it was an up and down relationship, but we loved each other deeply. So it's, it just doesn't matter. I hate the stigma around the guy needing to, quote unquote, chase the girl.
I watched a Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn movie last night, and it was beautiful. The colors were beautiful. The plot was beautiful, but Audrey Hepburn kept saying she loved him after she knew him for 2 days. And I was like, oh, this is the problem. Jared, do you find it attractive, or are you kind of indifferent if women are asking you out as opposed to the other way?
No, I'm dating? Down. I mean, I think it's great. Like, I think, like, I'm not like, I'm sort of the same way where, like, if I'm interested in someone, like I'll ask them out, obviously. And that's more of what is expected, I suppose. But yeah, I've been asked out. Actually, some of the most successful relationships I've ever had that started on dating apps. Actually, well, and this was back, like, I'm thinking back when, like, one of them was Hinge, I think. Is the woman messaged me first before I, like, sort of messaged or matched with her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, oh, cool. It's, similar to the compliment thing. So yeah, I'm all for it. And
Leanna, I don't think that was his first time being abusive. He was probably hiding that just well before, right?
Probably not. And it could have been that I just was the first one to not take it, and I would fight back.
Yeah.
And that's what made it more explosive.
It sounds like you might have had mommy issues too, so maybe you curved that.
He 100% had mommy issues.
We're just stereotyping everybody over here.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Go for it.
Jade, what would you say is your relationship superpower?
Can I do my dating superpower when I was single, and then my relationship superpower?
Yes.
You're like, you already said it, Jade. So
you can do as much as you want.
So my dating superpower is I went in with a very positive mindset, knowing that I was going to meet someone and have a good experience, whether that was my person or not. And so I looked at it as an opportunity to meet cool and different people, and kind of being curious about them. And that makes people want to open up to you more and make them more engaging, as opposed to going on a date with someone and being like, this person's stale old Wonder Bread. But if you're curious about them, you're asking those questions and they open up, they kind of blossom more. My relationship superpower is I'm weird and I communicate to a fault with my husband. I think one of the most beautiful things about us is that we share and we talk through those hard, kind of tough, I want to say sticky, but that sounds weird. Those tough situations where you usually want to avoid. And I think that's our sweet spot, because there's a lot of love there, but also a relationship takes work, especially a marriage takes work. And so we're both willing to show up there, have those weird, awkward, tough conversations and still love each other.
Aw, that's like me and
That's
Jared.
amazing. Yeah.
I love that because I get flack for over communicating a lot. And I don't think personally that you can over communicate. And I think that the men who have not appreciated that just don't want to communicate, period. So I think I know I'm looking for, and I'm kind of talking to someone right now. It's like, Jade, I kind of want to get your advice on this later, but I'm kind of talking to someone, and we've had like 3 really good communicative conversations about like some hard stuff. And that's whether this guy is, something's going to happen or not, like that's what I want. And at least I know, like, I'm getting there, like I'm meeting guys who are more willing to like have those conversations, who are nicer, and yeah, I appreciate that because it makes me feel better for communicating so much.
So I actually started off as a dating coach specifically for divorced men because of that issue. So as a society in general, we're going to stereotype again. We don't really allow our like boys who become men to kind of communicate their issues and their emotions, right? You walk it off, you man up. It's not masculine to be emotional. You name it. We know what society teaches us. And then when we get into relationships with men, we want them to communicate with us their emotions, open up to us about their feelings. But not all women receive that well, unfortunately. As us as women, or us as just partners, heterosexual or homosexual or anywhere in between, we need to be doing a better job of allowing people to be vulnerable around us, and our dating lives will change.
Yeah, I like that. And
Beautiful.
I think that's something that I need to continue to work on. Is I want the guy to open up, and then sometimes they open up and I don't like it. I don't like what they're saying. And so then I'll like
argue. Close back up. Close down.
No, I mean, but it's like something that like makes me mad or whatever. And so then I'll argue back, and then they shut down, and then I never hear from him again. So it is some, it's an active listening thing of like, putting your ego aside and your needs aside for a second and just hear them, take a moment, and then respond with something that maybe it doesn't agree, but you're like coming with more compassion, and then they can continue to hear you and open up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, one more question. What have you learned about yourself that helps you make it work with your husband? I guess that's a little bit kind of a piggyback of what we just said.
So I was like, what's the word? Jaded. I was
pun intended.
Yes, pun intended. So after my divorce, I had such a chip on my shoulder about men, and I was serial dating, but I was serial dating with the expectation of being let down. And that was not only damaging to me, but to other people. Like, it was that conversations where men would be like, who hurt you? And I'm like, I hurt myself. like it was my expectations. And so allowing myself to go out and be vulnerable again is truly something that allowed me to be in a healthy and happy relationship today and get remarried. And I think that's really scary. And I think it's easier said than done, is allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Because let's be honest, no one can really hurt you as much as someone who you show your side of this, yourself, that you don't show the rest of the world. So that person has such a power over you, and it's so scary. So allowing yourself to feel those feelings again, with the possibility of the same shit happening, like, unfortunately, that's the way that love is. It could either work out or it could either not. And so allowing yourself to open up to another human being is kind of the biggest thing.
Yeah. I love that. Beautiful.
Amazing.
Okay. Well, we are working with you because we want to get people your way. So tell us about how they can find you and a referral code they can use to get a discount with you.
Absolutely. So the website is datingafterdivorce.com, or you can check us out on Instagram. It's datingafterdiv. And for our listeners of the Hello and Goodbye podcast, we're offering $100 off our dating profile management and our matchmaking services. So be sure to let me know that they were referred by you. Should I redo that?
No, you're fine. Keep going.
So yeah, let me know that you heard the podcast, and I'd love to meet with you. If you don't have the funds to invest in a dating service, I'd love for you to join our free database and be potentially matched with a client at no cost. So please let me know that you heard the podcast, and I'd love to work with you.
I love this. And we are so appreciative that you're working with us. We cannot recommend our listeners your way enough. Thank you so much for giving our listeners $100 off your service, $100 off your service. And we just want everybody to flood your page and your website and support you. And
thank you for being out here, like changing lives. You're you're like doing good things for like love to happen.
Yeah.
For people
And I
in the
love
world.
that you're like this
amazing.
strong, sorry, Jared, I didn't mean to like talk while you're talking, but I love that you're just like this strong feminist woman and you make shit done. And you're also happy in a beautiful marriage. And that's what we want to tell our women listeners that's possible.
Absolutely.
Is Jade like your relationship role model right now?
I love her. I'm obsessed.
By the way, feminist does not mean I don't love men. I love men too. I think some men are like, they hear the term feminist and they're like, oh gosh.
we have this conversation all the time.
Okay. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. I'll send you the episode where we talk about it, because I apparently have been attracting men who also don't like the word feminist, but anyway, we so appreciate you and we want to support you. So we'll keep in touch, and everybody go head over to Jade's stuff.
Absolutely. Let me know you guys listen to the podcast, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Jade.
Thanks, Jade.
Bye.